Now, one thing people have to realize is that this is not science versus religion. This is religion versus religion. Evolution is nothing more than a pagan religion. There's no scientific proof for it whatsoever, as you're going to see in this tape. And it's a very dangerous theory because what you believe determines how you are going to behave. And evolution has created people like Lenin, Stalin, Hitler. Karl Marx dedicated his book Des Capitales to Charles Darwin. And it will continue to create these kinds of people. In fact, atheistic evolution is the official creed of all communists and atheists and a necessary basis for atheism. So people believe in the theory of evolution because of their lifestyle. They don't want there to be a God. They have these so-called missing links because they say that we evolved from an ape, but they've only been able to produce a couple of these when they should have millions of them. Lucy is the most complete so-called missing link. It was found by Donald Johanson in 1974. The leg bones for Lucy were found 1.5 miles away from the head bones, and the leg bones were 200 feet deeper in a different layer of strata. They were not all found in the same layer of strata or even in the same location. They were scattered over 1.5 miles. And all these supposed missing links have all turned out to be either fully human, fully animal, or fake. And just because some animals have some similar features doesn't necessarily mean a common ancestor. It may mean a common designer. Colin Patterson, he's an evolutionist, senior paleontologist at the British Museum of Natural History. They have the largest collection of fossils in the whole world. And he wrote a book supporting evolution, and someone asked him why he didn't include any missing links in his book. And he responded to this letter. He said, quote, "I fully agree with your comments on the lack of evolutionary transitions in my book. If I know of any, fossil or living, I would have certainly included them. I will lay it on the line, there is not one such fossil." So there's no missing links. There are trillions of fossils that you can study, but there are no missing links, and there has to be if evolution is true. D.M.S. Watson said, quote, "The theory of evolution is a theory universally accepted not because it can be proven true, but because the alternative, special creation, is clearly incredible. You see, a watch demands a watchmaker, a design demands a designer, and a creation demands a creator." And they have all these organs now.
You mean vestigial organs?
Right. They originally had 200 of these organs, now been reduced to a handful. One of the most common examples, they say, of evolution is the peppered moth of England. And there you had 95% light moss and 5% black moss. And what happened was, you had the factories, they started burning coals, and the trees started turning black from the soot. So they counted the moss again, and now they had 95% black moss and 5% white. And so basically all that happened was the white moth lost its camouflage and was eaten. That's all that happened. And that is a sign of microevolution, which are minor changes in the structure and function of a plant and animal. And macroevolution is something completely different. And it's the teaching that one kind evolves into another. And this has never been proven by science. And basically the key teaching of evolution is that life comes from non-living matter, spontaneous generation. And so basically the next question becomes, is the solar system and the Earth very young? And really, the evolution-creation debate can be settled pretty quickly if you can prove the Earth is young. Scientists admit that the oldest known living tree are the bristlecone pines of California and Nevada, which are 4,300 years old. How come we don't have an older tree? We have the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And after watching it for 20 years, they took a growth rate average, and they found out that the reef is 4,200 years old. But how come we don't have a reef that's older than that? When they drill down into the ground, they often hit oil, and this is often under tremendous pressure, sometimes as high as 20,000 pounds per square inch. And the scientists say that the pressure should have leaked off in about 10 to 15,000 years. But why is it still under pressure if the Earth is so old? The second law of thermodynamics, it's called the law of entropy, which says that anything left to itself gets worse. Things left to itself don't get better, they get worse. They talk about the geologic column, how that proves evolution. In the textbooks, they have the Cenozoic, Mesozoic, Paleozoic, all these different layers they say are millions of years old. Well, if you get a jar of dirt, shake it up, it'll settle out into layers for you. It's called hydrologic sorting. And so people have seen trees in the sediments going through all these different sediments that they say are millions of years old. And so there's only two explanations for this. One, either the trees grew in the sediments, or two, the sediment came down on top of the trees, and many of these trees are upside down. So all these layers, I believe, were caused from the worldwide flood. In fact, the Grand Canyon, they say that the Grand Canyon had gradually been eroded by the Colorado River. But if that's true, there should be 1,000 cubic miles of sediment at the river mouth, and you go to the river mouth and it's not there. And after the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, 600 feet of strata were deposited, and in one day it formed a canyon system 1/40th the scale of Grand Canyon. So these things were formed very rapidly and not over a long period of time. Evolutionists date the layers of rock by the fossils they contain, and then they date the fossils by the layers of rock that they're in. And this is circular reasoning. And fossils don't simply form when plants or animals simply dot and rot away. To become fossilized, a plant or animal must usually have hard parts such as bone, shell, or wood. It must be quickly buried to prevent decay and must be undisturbed throughout the long process. And the fossil evidence for a worldwide flood catastrophe is everywhere. It's very evident. And fish have been found by the billions with fins extended and eyes bulging. They found mammoths with the last meal perfectly preserved in their stomachs, and that kind of food isn't even found in that area today. They've found whales that are buried straight up and down. They found fish fossilized, giving birth to their babies. They found clams that are petrified, and they're found closed, and when a clam dies, it opens up. The Bible says that all the mountaintops during the flood were submerged underwater. And Edmund Hillary, in 1953, he climbed Mount Everest, and when he reached a 26,000-foot level, for the next 3,000 feet, he found seashells and clams all over the place. So how do you get seashells on every major mountain range only if the worldwide flood really happened?